The year 2023 marked a nadir in India-Canada relations. What was once a warm partnership built on mutual respect and shared interests lay in tatters. Accusations flew between New Delhi and Ottawa, culminating in the expulsion of diplomats and a freeze in high-level contact. To understand this dramatic breakdown, we must journey back a decade, tracing the roots of the crisis to the early days of Justin Trudeau's premiership. The story is complex, a tapestry woven from political expediency, ideological clashes, and the challenges of balancing domestic pressures with international diplomacy. This essay examines the key events that have brought India and Canada to this impasse. We will delve into the historical context, analyze the pivotal moments of discord, and explore the potential for future reconciliation. The breakdown of this once promising relationship offers valuable lessons about the fragility of international ties and the unintended consequences of domestic political choices. The current crisis is not merely a diplomatic spat, it reflects a deeper erosion of trust and understanding. Repairing this fractured relationship will require both sides to engage in honest dialogue, acknowledge past mistakes, and find common ground on issues of mutual concern. The stakes are high, not just for India and Canada, but for regional stability and the future of the rules-based international order. To grasp the magnitude of the current crisis, we must first revisit the recent past, when India-Canada relations were characterized by warmth and promise. Under the leadership of Prime Minister Stephen Harper from 2006 to 2015, the two countries forged a robust partnership, anchored in shared values and a growing convergence of interests. Harper, a conservative, recognized India's emergence as a global power and actively sought to strengthen ties across multiple domains. The hallmark of the Harper era was pragmatism and a focus on concrete outcomes. Economic ties flourished, with Canada viewing India as a key market for its natural resources and a source of skilled labor. The two countries signed a comprehensive economic partnership agreement in 2010, aiming to boost bilateral trade and investment. Beyond economics, cooperation extended to defense, counterterrorism, and education. Harper's personal commitment to strengthening the relationship was evident in his frequent visits to India and his engagement with the Indian diaspora in Canada. He understood the importance of people-to-people ties in fostering closer relations. His government took steps to streamline visa processes for Indian students and professionals, recognizing their contribution to the Canadian economy and society. The Harper years, in essence, laid the foundation for a strong and multifaceted partnership. The election of Justin Trudeau as Prime Minister in 2015 brought with it a significant change in tone and tenor in Canada's approach to India. While Trudeau initially expressed his commitment to continuing the close relationship cultivated by his predecessor, subtle shifts in policy and rhetoric began to emerge over time. These shifts were partly driven by domestic political calculations, particularly Trudeau's need to appease certain constituencies within his Liberal Party base, which was diverse and had varying interests. One significant change was the increased emphasis on human rights and democratic values in Canada's foreign policy, which became more pronounced. This was in line with Trudeau's personal brand of liberal internationalism, but it also introduced a new element of scrutiny into Canada's dealings with India, making the relationship more complex. While India's democratic credentials were never questioned outright, there was a growing sense that Canada, under Trudeau, was less willing to overlook concerns about human rights violations and restrictions on civil liberties in India, which became a point of contention. Furthermore, Trudeau's government appeared more receptive to the concerns of the Sikh diaspora in Canada, some of whom harbored separatist sentiments and supported the creation of an independent Khalistan in Punjab, India, adding another layer of complexity. This stance, while intended to appease a domestic constituency, inevitably created friction with the Indian government, which viewed any support for Khalistani separatism as interference in its internal affairs and a serious issue. The stage was set for a gradual erosion of trust and goodwill between the two countries as these issues continued to simmer beneath the surface. While the early years of Trudeau's premiership did not witness any major crises in bilateral ties, the seeds of discord had been sown, setting the tone for future interactions. Section 4. Early warning signs. The 2018 visit and rising tensions. The visit of Justin Trudeau to India in February 2018 exposed the growing cracks in the India-Canada relationship. What was initially planned as a diplomatic mission to strengthen ties and foster goodwill between the two nations quickly turned into a series of missteps and misunderstandings. What was intended to be a high-profile trip aimed at reinvigorating ties turned into a public relations disaster, marked by diplomatic snubs and mutual suspicion. The trip, which was supposed to highlight the shared values and economic interests of both countries, instead underscored the deep-seated issues that had been festering for years. The visit laid bare the underlying tensions that had been simmering beneath the surface and signaled a turning point in bilateral relations. It became evident that the relationship between India and Canada was more fragile than previously thought, with both sides harboring grievances and mistrust. One of the first signs that the visit was not going as planned was the lukewarm reception accorded to Trudeau by the Indian government. The lack of enthusiasm was palpable and set the tone for the rest of the trip. Protocol was seemingly breached when Trudeau was received at the airport by a junior minister rather than a senior dignitary. This breach of protocol was seen as a deliberate snub and a clear indication of the Indian government's displeasure. The Indian media, often seen as a barometer of the government's mood, was also uncharacteristically critical of Trudeau, questioning his sincerity in seeking closer ties with India. The media coverage was relentless, focusing on every misstep and amplifying the sense of discord. The visit was further marred by the controversy surrounding the presence of Jaspal Atwal, a former Khalistani militant convicted of attempted murder in Canada, at a reception hosted by the Canadian High Commission in Delhi. This incident added fuel to the fire, exacerbating the already tense situation. While Atwal's presence was attributed to a security lapse, the incident caused outrage in India and reinforced the perception that the Trudeau government was soft on Khalistani extremism. The fallout from this controversy was immediate and severe, casting a long shadow over the entire visit. The 2018 visit, instead of mending fences, ended up widening the gulf between India and Canada. The intended diplomatic outreach turned into a diplomatic debacle, leaving both sides more estranged than before. It highlighted the growing divergence in perspectives and the lack of trust between the two governments. The visit served as a stark reminder of the complexities and challenges inherent in international relations. The incident cast a long shadow on bilateral relations, setting the stage for further confrontations in the years to come. The repercussions of this visit would be felt long after Trudeau's departure, influencing the trajectory of India-Canada relations for the foreseeable future. Section 5 of the Khalistan issue, a thorn in bilateral ties. The issue of Khalistani extremism has long been a thorn in the side of India-Canada relations, creating a complex and often contentious dynamic between the two nations. For India, it is a matter of national security and territorial integrity, a non-negotiable stance that underscores its sovereignty. Meanwhile, for Canada, it is a complex domestic issue intertwined with the rights and freedoms of its Sikh population, reflecting the country's commitment to multiculturalism and human rights. The Trudeau government's perceived leniency towards Khalistani sympathizers in Canada has been a constant source of irritation for India, exacerbating diplomatic tensions. This leniency has fueled tensions between the two countries, making diplomatic negotiations more challenging. India accuses Canada of providing a safe haven to Khalistani extremists, who they claim use Canadian soil to further their agenda. These extremists allegedly raise funds, procure weapons, and spread propaganda against India, activities that India views as direct threats to its national security. India often points to the Air India bombing of 1985, a tragic event that remains the deadliest terrorist attack in Canadian history as evidence of the ongoing threat posed by Khalistani militants operating from Canadian soil. The bombing serves as a grim reminder of the potential consequences of allowing extremist activities to go unchecked. India has repeatedly urged Canada to crack down on Khalistani groups, calling for stricter measures and greater cooperation. Additionally, India has sought the extradition of individuals accused of terrorism, hoping to bring them to justice on Indian soil. Canada, for its part, maintains that it does not tolerate terrorism in any form and asserts its commitment to counter-terrorism efforts. The Canadian government emphasizes that it cooperates with India on counter-terrorism matters, striving to address mutual concerns. However, it also underscores its commitment to freedom of expression and assembly, fundamental rights enshrined in its constitution. Canada argues that peaceful advocacy for Khalistan does not constitute terrorism, highlighting the importance of distinguishing between violent extremism and legitimate political expression. The Canadian government has been reluctant to take action against Khalistani groups unless there is clear evidence of their involvement in violence or illegal activities, a stance that reflects its legal standards and principles. This cautious approach has often been a point of contention, with India pushing for more decisive action. The Khalistan issue is a sensitive one that evokes strong emotions on both sides, making it a deeply polarizing topic. Finding a middle ground has proven elusive, with both nations holding firm to their respective positions. India accuses Canada of double standards, arguing that it is not doing enough to curb extremist activities. Conversely, Canada accuses India of trying to stifle dissent and infringe on the rights of its citizens. This issue has poisoned the well of bilateral relations, creating a significant obstacle to improving ties and fostering mutual trust. As long as the Khalistan issue remains unresolved, it will continue to be a major obstacle to improving ties between India and Canada, casting a long shadow over their diplomatic relations.